Hi, I'm Mark Rickoff. I'm a regional sales manager with RDO Equipment in the Vermeer division, and I'm here today to talk to you about the SC1052 stump cutter by Vermeer. The machine itself is designed for narrow entrances, so we can take the dual wheels off and we'll have we can get through a 36-inch gate. And they just bolt on and off. So once you get through the gate, you put the duals back on for safety on the job site and stability. The machine itself is designed for three primary things. One and foremost is operator safety, and we'll get into that here in a little bit at the control panel. Two is productivity, and then third is always service and maintenance items. So we'll start with that, with access into the engine and some of the daily maintenance items. We'll start here with just easy to get to on both sides of the machine in the front end for your daily service points and your monthly, hourly maintenance intervals. So here on the operator side of the machine, you can see we've got easy access, open access to the air cleaner system. You can also, from a long-term maintenance aspect, you've got your oil filter in here, as well as getting in for your belt tension on the engine. They do have a locking arm that prevents it from closing on anybody who would be in that area. Again, another safety aspect of the design. So we'll close that up and we'll move forward to the next one. Again, just a quick little push button. This is more for your long-term service and maintenance, getting up into the fuel tank and the radiator for engine cooling. And then as we move around on this side of the machine, you've got great access to the battery if for some reason you would ever need to change it or jump it. You've got great easy open access to get to that. And in this area, again, with your daily checks, you've got easy access to your oil. So pull in the dipstick, check your oil level, which is always a critical thing you want to do before you start running for the day. This machine here, the SC1052, has a 4.3 liter Origin gas engine in it. So you don't have to worry about DEF or the after treatment systems that you typically find on diesel engines, but it is emissions regulated, and it's up to code for 2025 EPA regulations. So we'll close these up. Again, real easy to button the whole machine up. One thing that I really like on this machine, a little tool here, because you'll see this on job sites, and if you've cut stumps before, you'll know what I'm talking about, is this thing right here, the exhaust. So there's times when you're cutting a stump up against a house, or maybe there's a big evergreen tree here and you're cutting the stump back over here. Exhaust, because of the heat that's coming out of it, it'll easily melt siding on a house. If the exhaust on your machine is coming out underneath the engine, it can kill the grass, can kill shrubbery. Vermeer has come up with this nice little tool here, and you put it in here and you can adjust where you want that exhaust to point out. Now keep in mind, when you're operating, you're over on the other side of the machine. Depending on wind direction, you can move it as well. But it's very easy to, I'm just using this tool and it's working on leverage, and I just spin it around. It's a great feature to keep away from that damage to the rest of the job site. And it stows really easily here on the side of the machine, back end of the machine. So now we're getting back into the business end of the machine. This is one of the chip containment curtains. And what this is for, and there's another one on the other side of the machine, this is, as you're cutting, this is gonna keep all your chips contained in a nice central area. It helps for reduced cleanup time after you're done cutting the stump. Cutting the stump, in my opinion, is the easiest part of the job. It's the cleanup afterwards that nobody likes. So we don't want chips and stump shavings scattered all over the job site, and you want to keep them contained. So if you're cutting a stump up near home, you're not pelting the house with foreign material. So this will stow really easily for transport. What you'll do is you'll just put that up in there, you roll this up, and then there's a rubber strap that stows it in place. So we're going to put this back out, get it out here, and locked into place. And when the cutter wheel sweeps over, that cutter wheel will end right here. You don't have to worry about the wheel getting into the curtain. And as you advance into the stump, the chips will naturally kind of push the curtains back and further away. On the cutter wheel itself, like I said, we've got the 4.3 liter Origin engine. It has a hydraulic drive mechanism. So your hydraulic system coming from a pump to your motor, and then a drive shaft down to a gearbox, which is on the opposite side of the cutter wheel as your operator station. And I'll talk about that a little more when we get to the operator station. But this wheel has what's called the VCS cutter wheel. So that's the Vermeer cutting system. And a lot of Vermeer technology across all of our products tries to reduce your downtime, reduce your operating costs. So getting double the life out of a cutting tool is ideal. And that's the case here with these cutting teeth, is that you're typically, when you're cutting, this top edge is what's doing the amount of cutting. And on this outside upper edge, that's what's engaging your stump. So if that wears down, or if there's rocks in the ground around your stump, it may get chipped off. This is carbide. What you can do is you just remove a bolt, and you can flip this one over to this side, and then you can put this one over to this side. And so when you do that, now with this tooth being over here, this bottom edge that wasn't doing any cutting is now up on the top edge cutting. So you're getting twice the amount of wear life for the price of one tool. There's some great features with this whole wheel, is not only in the tooth, but in the wheel itself. On a lot of stump cutters out there, and Vermeer has them as well into our smaller machines, it's just a solid steel wheel, and they vary in thickness depending on model and horsepower. But what you have here is your center. You see the three plates here, 1, 2, and 3. These outside plates are your wear plates, and they stick up a little higher than the center line of the main part of your wheel. And as you can see, they're segmented on the side. So as these wear, you can replace these individual plates, which again helps reduce costly wear items over the life of the machine. You've got a graded system here, and you notice it's just on one side, and this is for the operator. When you're cutting, as you view through the operator station, you're actually able to see the wheel spinning through here. So it gives a good view, depending on where this is in relation to the ground. You can either see the wheel itself here, or you can look through the fins here and get a good line of sight to what's actually happening in the ground. The cutter wheel guard. This is a patented safety item by Vermeer. And again, safety of the operator and those around the job site, homes, different structures, automobiles, if you're doing like right-of-way boulevard type tree removal. This is designed to contain everything back to the ground. And then as you can see these contours here, it's also designed as you're sweeping sideways. If here's my stump, this will come in here and it'll automatically raise, it'll float up and down as we're cutting. Which is a great feature. And then on the 1052, and a very similar, the 1052 is actually part of a family of 3 stump cutters by Vermeer. You have the SC1052, 852, and 1052, this being the largest of the 3. But they all have the same 4-bar linkage design hinging off the back of the machine. So we'll show you in a little bit when we go to cut. This actually hinges down and away from the machine. So it does 2 things. One, you can get on a larger stump and not be hindered by the engine and the clutch or hydraulics. It also lets you go higher and lower into the ground. So this will cut 31 inches above ground and about 25 inches below ground, which really helps, especially like in storm cleanup, storm recovery, blowovers. You get that big root ball laying out here on the ground. You know, that root ball could be this tall, and it could be this tall. So being able to cut 30 plus inches above grade is great in that instance. And then a lot of places, there'll be a requirement on how much you need to remove, and that's to prevent sprouts from coming back up the next season. And if they want to replant, then you got to go even deeper. So by being able to go 2 foot plus below the surface level is ideal. Again, you've got more chip containment curtains here. And then on this side, here's the one for the operator's station. This one just lifts up and then it folds down. We'll come over to the controls itself. So we've got things kind of split up. We've got our run controls here. So once we get things kind of set, we can forget about this area. And then when we're cutting, everything is primarily right here for us. And I'll swing this out in a second. But you've got your ignition, you've got your throttle, and then there's a little control switch here that switches the controls from your control panel, or there's an optional remote control that can come with the machine. And when it's that in this bottom position, that also takes us to that front panel that I pointed out earlier that we'll get back to. So let's pretend the engine's running right now. We got it started. Now we got to get this thing out to where it needs to go so we can work. So all you do is just, you kind of lift up right there, lifts up about a ½ an inch, pops out. You got a little pin here you pull up. And everything's in place. Now we got a great line of sight to our cutter wheel. And if we're tight up against a house or a fence, there is a kind of an intermediate position where it's not as far out. So if you are in tight confined area, it does help. But for more times than not, you're gonna operate with it all out here. So I'll cover this side of the control station first. You've got the chip blade controls. That's up front. We'll talk about that more here in a little bit. Your clutch engagement. So when we're going to engage the hydraulics to get the cutter wheel turning, that's here. You have a full-time four-wheel drive in the machine. So through the hydraulics and the valving, you have hydraulic flow independently to all four corners of the machine for four-wheel drive. If you get into some tougher ground conditions, where you're starting to slip, maybe the machine is, it's kind of rocking up in the chip pile, there is a differential lock right here where you can lock it in and get more power consistently to the tires that you need to. You have a high and low speed for your ground drive, low and high. And then the predecessor to SmartSweep, as you can see on the cutter wheel, SmartSweep was Auto Sweep. And now the second iteration of Auto Sweep, called SmartSweep, you actually have 3 different settings that you can put the machine into for cutting. And what SmartSweep does is it's an electronic system that's regulating engine RPMs with the speed of the sweep cylinders in the stump. So as the engine RPMs start to come down, the sweep speed will slow down. And that allows the engine to kind of come up, and then your sweep speed comes up. And what it's trying to do is maintain just a nice level flow through the stump as you're cutting it. You don't want to see this with the engine RPMs, because then what can happen is if you let them come down too far, you stall out the engine, and that quick stall is not good on really anything, because you're stalling the hydraulics, you stall out the engine. So if we can keep it more in a nice even keel pattern, that's where we want it to be, and that's what SmartSweep is supposed to do for us. So now we've got engine running, we've got our clutch engaged, now we're ready with the controls. Vermeer has come up with an operator presence system that works very similar to a touch lamp that you might have at home or have seen in a hotel, and it's just a capacity change within the handle, right? So if I put my hands on these, the system knows that I'm touching this. And even if I'm wearing gloves, because that comes up a lot, well, what about gloves in the wintertime? There's still a change. It's not as high of a change, but it's still recognizing that difference. So if the cutter wheel's turning, and what we're asking the machine to tell is that I've left the control station, and typically when people leave the control station or they take their hands off the handles, they're coming around to look at something that's in the ground. And that's when we get into a precarious situation, and we don't want that to happen. That's when accidents happen, right? We get too close, our feet get too close, things of that nature. So by having to have at least one hand, I can operate like this. I don't have to have both hands on the handles, but I got to have at least one. And if I do let go, it's the machine. If I don't get my hand back on in like tenths of a second, it's going to disengage the clutch, and it's going to stop the cutter wheel within several seconds. And then I'm going to have to go back through the startup procedure. So again, it's safety for the operator to keep them where they're supposed to be. And if we need to check out something, maybe we started hitting some rocks or some decorative landscaping bricks, that's fine. Let's lift the cutter wheel out of the way, get it pushed off to the side, shut the machine off, and then go look to see what's happening. Never walk into this area, past this operator station, while the machine and the cutter wheel are running. You have ground drive here, as you want to advance into the stump, but you can also do it here, where it's just a single button or a single switch, and that will straight line track the machine into it as long as you got your steer tires in the right direction. So this is just more of a, it's easy because it's right there with your two main handles, but you can use this one as well. This one in the center is made to raise and lower your cutter wheel, and then this one off to the right is intended to sweep side to side. A lot of people ask what this little port is for, and that is for diagnostics. Anymore, most of our machines, I'd say 98% of them, they're heavier on the electronic side, especially with the way engines are going today, than they ever have been in the past. So there's going to be times where we need to plug in a laptop to diagnose, might be a hydraulic system, might be the electrical system, and that's where we do that here. And another piece that goes with the machines that RDO provides are telematics. So most of the machines come to us from our manufacturing partners with telematics installed. And then when we do our pre-delivery inspection prior to delivering it to you, the customer, we make sure that that's working. And then the beauty of the telematics on our machines through RDO is we have a team of experts up at our field support office in Fargo that their sole focus is to monitor all these machines that are out working in the field. And if there's an alert, depending on how the account's set up, they can reach out to the customer directly, or they'll reach out to our service departments and say, hey, we've got a problem with this machine. We need to talk to the customer right away to get this addressed. And we have numerous stories where we've saved engine failures from happening because we were able to see those faults and get in touch with the customer. And the owner might be sitting in his office and the operator's out on the job, and maybe the operator is busy and he doesn't see something happening. Now we can touch base with that owner and get this taken care of before you have a costly repair to handle. But while that machine's being repaired, you don't have a machine that's producing income out in the field doing work. That's just another great offering we provide, and it's at no charge to our customer base. So we provide that free of charge. It's just part of why you do business with RDO. From the operator station, you've got this control here. This switch here changes it from the control panel down to either the remote or the front. And then up front, the nice thing of this little operator station here, and it is little because it only does a couple of things. And one is it drives the machine forwards and backwards, and it steers the tires. And that's all it's intended to do. So if you can imagine, we're loading on the trailer first thing in the morning, we're gonna go to work. So now I can, instead of having to drive on the side of the machine, I can drive it right here, right? And I can get it, I can see great to both sides. Am I centered on the trailer? Do I need to be? I don't have to guess when I'm on one side trying to figure out what's happening on the other. So then I just drive it forward, I get it on a trailer, I secure it down, and I go to the job site. Now I'm on the job site and I gotta go through that narrow opening. Okay, let's say we've got a 36-inch gate. So the first thing we do is we take the bolts off the duals. We've already spoke about that. That's a relatively easy job to do. Now the duals are off, control panel is stowed. Now I gotta get through the gate. If it wasn't for this little control panel up here, I'd be trying to shimmy through the gate that's 36 inches wide, but my machine is 35 inches wide. So, I really got to stretch out with my controls. On this machine, the 852 and the 552, they're all the same. They've got this control up here. So now I'm going through the gate that's about yay wide, and I can see how tight I am one side to the other side. So it prevents damage to the property owner as well as to your machine. And then when you want to run your chip blade, that you'll do from the control panel right here. So you can go up and down, and then you can steer. And what's nice about that is after you, let's say we were out on a 6-foot stump, because a machine will have a straight line cut of 70 plus inches. I think it's like 71. There's a lot of chips that come out of that stump because it doesn't look that bad when you're looking at the stump, but you get a mound of chips. So cut the stump, you're done, turn the machine 180 degrees. Now use the chip blade to kind of push everything up back into the stump hole, and maybe the property owner is going to take care of removal. Maybe you're going to do it, but either way, now it's it's a little bit neater and organized to get it out of there. And the nice thing with the blade is you've got a nice curved edge right here. So what happens is when you get that down on the ground, especially in sod or turf, it has a better chance of riding over the top without digging into like you would normally see on a dozer blade that has just a straight edge on it. So again, keeping in mind operating costs and preventing damage. That's kind of the static review of it. I think what we'll do now is we'll start the machine up. I'll cycle some functions. I'll bring the chip blade down. I'll move the cutter wheel out so you can see exactly how far out that cutter wheel does come before it engages the ground. And then we'll fire up the hydraulics and run the cutter wheel as well. If you have any additional questions for us, feel free to reach out to your RDO sales representative. Visit us on our website at rdoequipment.com, or feel free to call us at any of our RDO dealerships in your area.